Fareway values family, and we treat our employees and our customers like their family.
If you're looking for a place to shop, our service is amazing.
We have put an emphasis on hiring good people.
One of the things that we talk about is just doing the right thing.
And that is so key to this day and age.
Fareway just isn't about selling groceries. It's about taking care of people.
That, to me, is the best thing we can do at Fareway.
Two guys, two Chris's, one network. Iowa Everywhere. It's time for Two Guys with Chris Williams and Chris Hassel. Presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery from the Channel Seed Studios. Where? Everywhere. Live and always on demand at Iowa Everywhere.
What's up, and welcome to Two Guys here on Iowa Everywhere. It is the 29th of July. The summer has flown by. Feels like football season. He is Chris Hassel. We are ready to go with Maddie Van Winkle producing the program. As always, we are in the Channel Seed Studios. We are presented by our friends at Fareway Meat and Grocery. Hassel, I'm back in my office for the first time since Floodgate 2024. Now, it's not perfect. We're not 100% back together. I'd say I'm about 75%, but it's going to be literally not doing this show at my kitchen table like I have been for the last few months.
It's a much better look than the kitchen table up against the white wall. And you had
Sucked,
that little,
I know.
What was that picture you had in the background? It was like one of those frame things that said like,
we love our family.
Faith, family, food.
I gotta work some kinks out here, but we'll get there. Sorry, see, like my camera just jacked around.
Did you tell Todd Blythe that you took down his jersey, by the way, from the wall?
That was Myers' jersey. Get it right.
Myers. Sorry.
But pretty similar, yeah.
So you took down Myers' jersey to put Petrus's jersey up at the
No,
office?
I have Myers' jersey behind me here.
Okay.
But Maddie, Myers' jersey is going to be going out in the man cave. So it's almost getting a promotion. I mean, maybe a demotion since there's not going to be thousands of people to see it here, but the closest of close friends. So I'm going to have my Purdy jersey, my elite exclusive Brett Meyer jersey. We're going to have them all out in the other area.
By the way, speaking of promotion, I am back off of probation. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
On camera.
Yes.
Van Woke.
It has been, what, how many days? 8, 9 days since Van Woke's last political statement?
Just rant.
So,
went on there. And just.
I had to leave Iowa for a little bit, get up to Minnesota, and be back with my people.
No, Maddie, happy birthday to your little girl. We had a good time, Hassel. You just missed the big birthday party.
God, I'm so sorry I missed the little kid's birthday party.
So a quick story about the birthday party. So like an hour before the party, I went to Casey's and picked up a bunch of beer for the adults at the party. Not a single drink was had at this party. Nobody took a single can of beer. Well, not even Williams.
Yeah, it's so funny. I literally walk in the door. Okay, 1-year-old birthday party.
This is on what, Sunday?
Saturday. I walk in the door, and Matt's beautiful wife, Chris, we got you Coors Light. Here's the problem.
I forgot you're trying to get those levels back down after your visit to game day.
Well, let's just say, what time did we go to bed on Thursday, Hassel? 3:30?
I think we went to bed around 3 both nights I was at your house.
Yeah. And then you left, and I went dirt racing.
Yep.
Friday night. I don't remember the last time I had a run like that. You know, a 48-hour, 72-hour run. Yeah, I just because here's the deal, Matt. I knew
you walked in, you looked like you needed a nap.
Yeah, I was tired, man. And it wasn't that kind of a part. I appreciate the sentiment, but the Ames Lager in there.
It did have some Ames Lager. Yeah.
So what is I've noticed a major shift in my trip there. What is it with this Coors Light kick? I mean, you were drinking Coors Light all night. We were out with a bunch of people that work at Iowa State. They were drinking Coors Light. Is Busch Light dead?
No. I mean, Busch Light is still my preferred light beer, but I can go either or with those two. I really like the Coors Light. The one thing Coors Light has going for it, and there's going to be people in our audience that are going to go, oh, yeah, Costco. Readily available at the Costco.
So does that mean you get it cheaper or something?
Yes. So, and honestly, that night when we were out, we kind of got there, and that's just what everybody was already drinking. So I was like, yeah, I'll just join in. Otherwise, I probably would have gotten
just
Busch Light.
Buckets of Coors Light. I mean, buckets.
Yeah. Well, I had so much Coors Light. But then on Friday night at the dirt track, I went back to the Busch.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. I was a
so
little
it's
concerned.
like, no, my big thing is I just can't do the Bud Light.
I know.
You don't headaches and.
Well, I thought it was for the other reason that you didn't do the Bud Light.
No, all the big conservatives are drinking the Bud Light again. Have you seen that?
Yeah, well, I saw Kid
They
Rock
all got
was back
paid off.
drinking it. Yeah,
they got
Kid
paid
Rock's
off,
back.
and now they're back. You know, just like politics in this country, baby. Gotta love it. I'm angry until you write me a check.
Mm-hmm.
They got Bud Light, they got Coors Light, they got Busch Light, all at the great Fareway stores all across our great state, and they support us here. And I know those boys at Channel Seed. That's a Busch Light crowd.
Yeah, they throw back some Busch.
Yeah, that's a Busch Light crowd. I've been to their events, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna MC this Black Hawk concert. Have I told you about that? I can't wait. It's gonna be.
When is that
epic.
again?
August 28th. It's
Jesus,
it's
so
a
you're going to be
Wednesday
saying
night.
Black Hawk for another month.
Can we get you on stage? God bless America. God bless Channel Seed. God bless Black Hawk.
God bless the city of Grand Junction and Fouch Agri-Services. Yeah. We got a lot of football. I could go off on this, all this garbage to come out from Friday and the NCAA. I talked about it for about an hour in depth with Bloom last night on Cyclone Fanatic. We won't go that deep here, but it is the big talking point in college athletics as we're starting to, I'm hoping that this will be a news cycle for about a week, and then we can, fall camp starts this week for our schools. So we'll start to have some headlines coming out of that. But what's on your mind today?
It wasn't in the email that I sent yesterday for show ideas, but something that I saw on Twitter X yesterday was really interesting, and I sent it to you guys this morning. It is basically, are you familiar with K-Ford ratings? It's one of the ratings systems on, he's all over X. Well, he put together this list that kind of shows what teams have to do to get into the college football playoff based off of one, like a power rating, and two, who's going to be favored in the games they play. And it's pretty interesting, I thought. He puts them into different categories, but at the top is Georgia. Now, this is going to make the people that didn't want the 12-team playoff go, yeah, see, this is it. Georgia gets what he calls 3 mulligans because they're going to be favored in every game, and they only need 9 wins to make the college football playoff. So they could lose 3 games that they're favored in and still potentially make the playoff, be in playoff contention. Then you have teams like Oregon and Alabama. They get 2 mulligans because they're going to be favored in likely 11 games this season. And then there's a half dozen teams or so that have 1 mulligan, and it's still some of the big boys, mostly big boys: Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, LSU, Notre Dame, Florida State, Kansas State, and Iowa. Which this goes to show how soft Iowa's schedule is. And this is also taking into account that he believes Iowa is going to have to win 10 games in the college football playoff, not just 9, to be in at-large consideration. But Iowa, as long as they win every game they're favored in, they should be in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, good to see it here. That's a really good chart. If you're listening to the podcast, go watch it on YouTube.
You want to
really
look
good
at
stuff.
it. And if you haven't seen it yesterday, it was on my feed. I retweeted it. But most teams have to have several upsets to even be in contention. For instance, Iowa State is on the tier with you need 3 upsets to be in college football playoff contention.
Which that would be Iowa, Utah. It's basically saying Iowa State needs to win out.
Because you also have to take into account the Big 12. Like what he does here is if you're an SEC team like Georgia, you can be in contention with 9 wins.
Mm-hmm.
For Iowa State, if you're looking at an at-large consideration, you have to win probably 11. I mean, 10 is possible, but probably 11. And he has a bunch of different charts. Van Wink just pulled up another chart with chances to be in the at-large discussion. And you've got that group of 5 that's, 70+% chance: Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, Texas, and Penn State.
There's Penn State. It's my Nittany Lions. I'm telling you. It's their year.
And then it's a big drop down to everybody else. And where is Iowa? Less than 10%.
Same tier as Iowa State.
Because they don't believe that Iowa is good enough to win all those games that they're favored in, based on the rating system. And we know from watching Iowa, every game is up for grabs. There's usually always going to be one, at least, that they lose that they shouldn't have. But it is pretty interesting that the what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, it's Monday morning, and we had all those Coors Lights over the weekend. The opportunity, there it is, that Iowa has with this schedule in this 12-team playoff is very interesting. And on Thursday's show, we are going to go through and win-loss every game on Iowa and Iowa State's schedule.
Look forward to that. I'm headed to the Ozarks. You want to meet me down in Missouri?
How many times a year do you go down to the Ozarks? Like 3
Twice.
or 4?
Usually
Seems
2
like
or 3.
you're always there.
I've only been there once.
If you thought you had too much Coors Light last weekend, and now you're going to the Ozarks, you're going to be drinking all day, every day. I needed a cleanse yesterday.
I just don't know if I can do it anymore, man. It's just like, it's not as appealing as it used to be.
I can't. Well, for one, I can't drink that much beer. Like you noticed me. I had to switch to like whiskey and ginger ale. I was the
elitist.
I was the man with the pinky in the air. Everybody, get up! We'll take another bucket of Coors. Excuse me, could I have
another bucket?
This is my specific drink that I kept ordering. I would like a Bullet bourbon whiskey with a splash of ginger ale, just a splash. I don't want the whiskey ginger ale that they put in the glass at the bar, and it's like 3/4 ginger ale. Just give me a splash. That's all I want.
And then that waiter, he was like the only waiter in the entire bar.
That poor guy.
He's just rolling his eyes at you every time you ordered that.
He kept reminding
bring on
us
another bucket. We want another bucket.
Well, I didn't say we wanted
there
another
was
bucket.
karaoke going on inside.
Oh,
yeah. Van Winks goes inside because he was getting so impatient with the waiter/bartender that he was going to order from the bar. He walked inside and immediately walked back out because he said he couldn't take the karaoke.
Don't stop believing.
Matt's a good karaoke singer.
Is he really?
I met my wife singing karaoke.
I have never done
Keith
karaoke.
Urban.
Good for you, Matty. I didn't even know that story.
It
Matt's
was
a good
interesting.
karaoke singer. You just throw him up there, and he'll start bebopping all over the audience. He loves it. They love him.
Speaking of music, I was in Williams' truck the whole weekend, driving around. It was nothing but Eminem and just like weird, crazy country.
Yeah, pretty much. That
Like-
sums me up to a T. Yep.
You kept listening to this one song, and this guy was like, "You fucking come in here and you give me the finger, well, I'll rip your fucking head off and stomp on your grave." and you're like, you realize this is Kelderman's best friend?
Yeah, that's why I was playing it for you. It's like Kelderman's best friend.
Get the fuck out if you don't like it.
Well, I wanted to make you feel at home. You know, I was trying to make you feel as welcome as possible. So it's like if I just bring you in here and it's just, you know, and we're just listening to Justin Moore and Toby Keith and Eric Church, you were gonna get. But I was like, no, let's bring on Eminem. I know you like Eminem. I did
appreciate the old school Eminem albums.
Oh yeah, we listened to the whole gamut of them. The first and second Eminem albums, man. I mean, those are. But then, like, this last one is like a continuation to those, and it's so good. It's Hassel had never heard of Ken Kniff from Connecticut. Isn't that unbelievable, everybody?
It's Ken Kniff
from Connecticut. Speaking of Kelderman, let's just knock out Triple B, shall we? Kelderman Manufacturing.
Oh,
we may as well.
Already?
I mean, we already brought him up. Let's go.
Bigger, better, bolder.
Powered by Kelderman Manufacturing.
Kelderman is currently riding his motorcycle from the West Coast to Sturgis with a bunch of.
I was going to say I was disappointed that we got to see so many sponsors, but I've still yet to meet Kelderman in person.
Kelderman is he's listening to this on his bike somewhere on his way to Sturgis for the big, biker rally that happens there. Go ahead, Hassel. Who's your bigger, better, bolder?
Well, I'm going to the Olympics. There was a lot of fun stuff that happened over the weekend with Iowa themes, and I know you're going to hit one a little bit later in the program. But how about this? Megan Gustafson playing for Spain.
Boy, that kind of went under the radar.
It did. I mean, I'm scrolling through Twitter the other day, and it's like, well, Spain, big comeback win. And it's Megan Gustafson just going off. 29 points, 8 rebounds, 4 steals, 2 blocks. She was 66% from the floor. And I love this because, and this is to no fault of Caitlin Clark or fans or anything like that, but Megan Gustafson was so great at Iowa. And just like, boom, she just gets unseated instantly.
Completely
and
under the radar.
You almost forget how great she was and how important she was to the program. And, I know she's in the WNBA. She's not a star or anything like that, but she's playing for the Aces. But this was just against China, and I don't think China's like a horrible team. I don't think.
Didn't China have that like 7'6" gal?
Yeah, I saw the jump ball.
Yeah, it's like not even fair.
But Gustafson just dominated with the comeback win, so I thought that was interesting. But sidebar, though, I don't know if she has Spanish blood.
I was reading this. So she became a European citizen earlier this year. She went through the steps to earn a Spanish passport in order to play for Spain's national team. So,
how do we feel about that? Like,
I'm not a huge fan.
Now,
something happened like that with Jackson Vroman. Remember him? God rest his soul. Like I want to say Jackson was playing for like the Iranian national team at one point or something like that. I don't think they ever made the Olympics.
It's really bizarre because I was reading. I can't remember who wrote the article, but it was a Register article that somebody retweeted yesterday. Like, this is how it went down. But it didn't say anything like if she had any connection to Spain or if she had,
I'll put a link in the
family
chat
lineage. I don't know how I feel about just like these countries going out and enticing players. Now, it's great for those players, but then you also have to think like this is taking an opportunity away from actually like a Spanish person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Which kind of goes against me giving her the triple B. And look, I don't know. I tried to find it. I couldn't find if she really did have any sort of lineage there.
She doesn't.
Or a tie.
She doesn't.
So I don't know. I don't know that that's great.
So she won the Euro Cup championship with the London Lions, and I guess has just spent time over in Europe. And
well, good for her. These Olympians get paid. So, like, this is better than her, I mean, she's maxing out her
when
income.
did this go from your nationality or your lineage to just like free agency almost?
That's a good question. I'm with you. I agree with your take on it for what it's worth.
This is no knock on her. This is the way they're doing it. Just what they are allowing. But I am very happy for her that she was able to do that. It's really interesting to see her dominate at a level like that.
I want to give a shout out, another one, to South Sudan. The Shayok South Sudanese.
They might be for real.
Dude, everybody was calling their win over Puerto Rico and former Cyclone George Condit, who played really well. And this game had all sorts of Iowa ties to it. Condit, and then we have Peter Jock and Marial Shayok, former Cyclone and Hawkeye for South Sudan. Shayok had 15. I think Jock had 12 in this one. Condit was like Puerto Rico's best player. And South Sudan wins it. Now they go on to play the United States, who they almost beat like a week ago in one of those preparation games. This is, again, as we've noted on this show, this is one of the best sports stories I can ever recall. Like, there's not an indoor basketball court in all of South Sudan. And there's this compilation of these guys, and it's just cool. It's really cool, and I can't wait to watch them play the Americans. They'll be
Are
hefty
you going to be
underdogs.
rooting for South Sudan?
No. I fly the red, white, and blue. You know that. I'm a red, white, and blue guy. But this is just such a cool story, right? Like,
yeah,
and especially with the Iowa State ties to
right.
it. It's like this
and
is just
guys
awesome.
We talk about Gustafson, but guys that you kind of forgot about. Like, what are they?
Yeah.
Are they still playing? What are they doing? Oh my God, they're still great.
Yeah, I mean it. Shayok was one of the best players to come through Iowa State. It's just he was there for a year, and he was on that prom team that had all that drama, and they went out in the first round of the NCAA tournament, so people just kind of forget about him. He's a really good player. So there you go, South Sudan. Keep an eye on those boys, former Cyclones and Hawkeyes. That's a fun story to watch. Maddie, what do you got, buddy?
I'm going with LeBron James leading USA to a win over Serbia. You like the audio?
He looks really good. Like I've been impressed with how young and athletic he still looks. Almost 40 years old.
Look at him throwing down here.
Williams, he's our age.
Isn't that crazy?
He turns 40 this year.
And I didn't realize this was his first Olympics since 2012. I guess COVID kind of impacted the last one, right? But didn't the U.S. didn't play in the last, or the basketball wasn't in the last Olympics, was it?
What? No,
I
think it's been in all of them. But I think there was one of them he just decided not to play in because he was, maybe that was the year. Actually, it probably would have been the year that he won the title with the Cavs. And you have, KD as well, aging, and he's out there just
came off the bench,
dropping bombs.
Didn't miss a shot.
LeBron James.
But here I go bitching about everything. I give Megan Gustafson the triple B, and then I bitch about people being able to play for. But here we go again because the KD hitting those three, the 3-point line is way too.
Yeah, I have a graphic
easy.
of this.
I love international basketball. It's so much fun.
They use the FIBA court.
Yeah.
Which is basically
but don't you think they
NCAA.
need to evolve a little bit and move that back because of how great the shooting has gotten?
It does look weird.
Maybe because it
looks like they're just taking a pull-up jumper. It's like it doesn't look like it's.
Well, they basically are,
effortless.
Matt, because they've trained so much. Like those guys back in the '90s, it wasn't the case. Like they didn't train but now with the analytics, right? Like these guys are shooting like this since they're in elementary school.
It just seems way too easy. I mean, I know KD made it look easier than it actually is, but there's something off to me that Steph Curry and Kevin Durant are using the same 3-point line as Audie Crooks, someone in women's college basketball right now. And I realize that the NCAA moved the line out to match FIBA and the international 3-point line in men's and women's. But that doesn't mean that the international game shouldn't evolve a little bit. Maybe it's not that much of an issue internationally with these other teams, but I can't imagine that with all these Jokic hits threes. He's 7 feet tall.
Good points. I all I know is I like watching these international games more than I do the NBA
because of the physicality.
Yeah, and just everything about it. Like that game was awesome yesterday. That Serbia-United States game.
It was really fun back and forth for the first, especially the first half.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
And then
the
U.S. just.
I flipped it on. I was getting ready to go mow, and I was getting something done, and then I couldn't leave it. I was just when KD came out there and just started hitting all those shots. No, good stuff. All right, let's go back to college football. Where do you want to start on this NIL stuff, Hassel? Because there's a lot of meat to pick off of this bone.
There is,
and I could go 2 hours on this, just boring people. So I'm going to let you kind of lead us into where you want to go.
Well, there was a lot of talk, obviously, at all the media days, and I found a good website. I think it was Saturdays Down South that put together like what everyone said about NIL and revenue sharing, and there were quotes from Beth Getz and Jamie Pollard and all that. And Pollard says that football and men's basketball fund 90 to 95% of the Iowa State athletics department. And what I find really interesting and concerning is that you have some people up there, whether it's an administrator or a coach, they're looking at it as if the allotment, the $20 to $22 million allotment that the athletic department can spend on revenue sharing to athletes. You have some looking at it as, well, you have to pay the sports that fund the athletic department. So like in Pollard's case, if 90 to 95% of it is from men's basketball and football, then 90 to 95% of your revenue sharing should go to the football and men's basketball team. But it's not that simple, because then you have Ohio State athletic director Ross Bjork, who says he thinks that if it's $22 million, $11 million of that has to go to women's sports because of Title IX.
It's the courts will eventually decide it, but the question is Title IX, do you have to split the money or do you have to split the opportunity?
And what's the difference in your mind?
The difference is
scholarships as opposed to revenue?
Correct. So if you just make it an even number, this is really low, but if you have 100 men's scholarships, you have to have 100 women's scholarships. And some believe that if you're paying $11 million to the men, you have to pay $11 million to the women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, from what I understand, they're going to leave this basically up to the schools and the conferences, and then and they're going to get sued no matter what they do. Like everything that came out from Friday, it was so disheartening to me, Chris. And when we were together, I wasn't reading any of this stuff. I didn't really start to work on this until yesterday. It's just, I feel like everything that happened on Friday is just a bunch of lawyers getting together and saying, how can we get more billable hours on the docket? Like, let me really simplify something for you guys. And this is, so did you see all the scholarship numbers that are going up across these sports? So like wrestling is a great case study here in the state of Iowa. It's been, I think, 9 or 10 wrestling scholarships for forever. Now they can have 30. Well, I had a lot of wrestling people texting me on Friday like, oh, well, this is great news. No, it's not. And I'll tell you why. Because they don't have to max out that 30. They're not going to. They're not going to. So what you're going to see, so like I think Ohio State has like 35 varsity sports. Iowa State has like 16. So there's a huge difference in a lot of these. The irony of all this is that the Olympics are going on right now. And you're going to see all these NCAA people, they have like this hashtag, like Olympians are made here. Well, they have been in the past because the football and the basketball programs have been funding it all, for these track athletes to have training tables and, all this great stuff.
And you're traveling all over the country to compete.
Correct.
Against the best programs.
What's going to happen now is, like, even Ohio State, the richest of the rich, they cannot afford to pay the $22 million and to max out all these scholarships. They just can't. So what they're going to do is they're going to tier their athletic programs. There's going to be tier 1, which is going to be football, men's basketball. Tier 2 will be women's basketball, maybe volleyball, whatever. And then these tier 3s, they're going to disperse like one scholarship amongst like 20 athletes. It's going to be like D3 where they have like grants for these people. What you're going to see from this is the death of Olympic sports as we know it in the United States of America. Like I think like Iowa State's a great example. Like I don't know like financially how Iowa State can do what they've been doing. Like I don't have any inside information here. Just want to let you know. Let's say like men's cross country, right? Non-revenue. Like you're probably going to have like one scholarship to go amongst the whole team, and then you're going to take those scholarships and put them more towards football because their cap just went from 85 to 105.
But again, how do you spread that around to make it equal for women?
So
will the men's Olympic sports suffer way more than the women's Olympic sports because you have to even it out with all the football scholarships?
Let's say Iowa, 105 scholarships is now the max. Okay,
for football.
And Iowa, I would guess, is in a point where they're going to want to max out the 105 football scholarships just to keep up with everybody else. Mm-hmm. I don't know about Iowa State. There's not as much keeping up to do, right? Like, if you're Iowa State, are you trying to keep up with Georgia?
You shouldn't.
I don't know. No, you shouldn't. It's a different world now.
You should only be really focused on your conference.
Let's say Iowa goes from 85 to 105 football scholarships. They will then have to add 20 female scholarships across the athletic department, unless they cut men's scholarships somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So I would guess women's wrestling at Iowa is about to see a boost in scholarships. I would guess that would be something that they would focus on. But again, there's only so much money, and these scholarships aren't just free. Like they're paid for. The athletic departments write checks to the universities for these scholarships and the room and board and all that stuff. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, with these scholarships, they just grow on trees. No, there's physical money being like paid. I think that there's a great irony going on right now with the Olympics happening, because I think we're going to look back in 10, 20 years and the United States will not be in nearly as good of a spot, because you have people, you got to realize these people from all over the world, they come to these universities for the great Olympic sports. Like, oh, I'm an equestrian. I'm going to go to Oklahoma or whatever. Like, there's people from all over the world that want to come to college here so they can train. And I think they're going to greatly, greatly suffer because of this. This is a great move if you're the top 5% with anything in college athletics. Do not fall for them saying, well, we are offering 20 more scholarships for the women's rowing team. They're not going to max any of that out. They're probably going to take away from it so they can put more into football and the basketball programs. You just watch. And this is all a fraud. This is all a fraud, so they can go to Congress and be like, look at all these opportunities we're giving to young people.
And Jamie Pollard has said publicly some of the things that you just did, and as it pertains to Olympic sports, that he believes if it keeps going the way this is going, that this, you mentioned the men's cross country team, you're no longer going to be competing with the Texases. You're no longer going to be taking trips out to California or Florida. You are now likely going to be in the same boat with, Drake.
Yeah, Iowa State will be running cross country with like Co-College and Central College in the next 5 years. Because the other thing is, too, I think there's realistic where a lot of these Olympic sports will drop down a level because they can get actual scholarships at D2 where they're just not going to be available for a lot of these D1 programs. I think you'll see them like, yeah, we're going to go and I have a better deal for me and better training at Northwest Missouri State or, like some of these FCS type schools, because they're not going to opt into this paying thing, and they're going to have real scholarships to give these people. And if I'm wrong, listen, I admit.
Well, you hope that you're going to be wrong, but
I admit I don't know all this stuff, and this is not an easy fix. All I know is everything I've read and texted with people about yesterday. I can't find many people who think that this is all like a good thing. This is all to keep us out of the courts, even though it's probably not going to do that either. The only way this stays out of the courts, Chris, is if there's like some unionization and collective bargaining that happens in college athletics. And to then I would say, well, you know, does a USC quarterback, like, is that in the same scenario as Iowa State's backup left tackle? No, like it's just vastly different. Like, how are you going to collectively bargain for these thousands upon thousands of kids from all over the country in all different ways of life? Like, I don't know what the answer is, but I think this is a terrible one. And if you're an Iowa fan, I think this is bad for you too, because like I think that probably what's going to happen in that top end, Chris, is if we're going to be limiting transfers, right, and Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State are now maxing out at 105, they're still going to be able to pay and get the kids, right? Like, that's a lot of players who would be trickling down to Iowa and Northwestern and Wisconsin, right? Like, I think there's going to be a lot of hoarding of talent going on at the top end. And Iowa's probably tier 2, maybe tier 3 when it comes to that. So you're not going to get it as bad as Iowa State will. But when you look at who you're trying to compete with, man, like, it just got tougher because you're middle of the pack in that league. Like, and man, if I'm Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State today, I love this. But if I'm anybody else, like, this is, to me, this is one of the worst things to happen for parity in college football maybe ever. I hope I'm wrong.
What, the scholarship limits being extended?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk the money and the revenue sharing and the allocation of that. It sounds like it's going to be $22 million that you can max out at for your athletic department. You take $22 million and you spread it out among the players. I can't imagine how they would do this half and half to women's athletics. It just doesn't make any sense because
that seems like an athletic director who's going on the record
football
with something he knows isn't true, so he can say, "Look, I said that."
So, I think all of your big boys are easily going to get to that $22 million and spend that.
Yes.
My questions are: How many programs will not spend that? And how will the money be allocated? Is it only going to go to football and basketball? Or, like, if you've got, let's just say at Iowa, you got this Spencer Lee. Does some of it go to him? I mean, can you pick and choose where this money goes? Does it have to be football and basketball?
I'm curious if, like, Iowa and Iowa State wrestling both won't opt out of their scholarships and have like a wrestling collective that pays these guys their room and board and all. I don't know. I just, because if not, I just don't know how they can do it all. You know what I mean? Like, I just wonder. I don't have an answer to that, but let's
go to my first question then.
Okay.
How ready are athletic departments? I'm not talking Ohio State, Georgia, Texas. Let's talk Iowa State, and other programs kind of on that same line. And Iowa's a little bit above Iowa State because they're getting so much more money from the Big Ten, and the gap is going to widen because of that.
Yes.
Are those programs ready to give $22 million to athletes in year one, and then continue year after year,
and that number is going to grow
after year?
Did you know that too? That number is going to get bigger every year for 10 years. The 22 million. So it's going to be probably closer to 30 by the end of the 10 years.
Because I can see, like, if it's just a one-time thing, yeah, let's get this money together, boom. But then you got to come right back and raise that money again. And yeah,
it's just
they're making a lot of money off of these TV contracts.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the Big Ten and the SEC, all the money that they bring in, it's the exact same number, $22 million, as it is in the Big 12, where they're not making nearly as much.
Yeah. No, and to answer your question, I don't directly know about Iowa. I know Iowa State's not ready to just fund $22 million worth. I would guess Iowa does, but they have a pretty big debt problem over there too, from what I understand. But still, I think they'll be good to go. What'll be fascinating again is how what I'm hearing, they're going to like tier these programs. So there's going to be certain programs at Iowa that have always had 10 scholarships, and now they're going to have 1. And they're going to, you've got to cut costs. You've got to. And if everybody else if you have to add 20 football scholarships, you got to get rid of 20 scholarships somewhere else. Like it's math. And it was so deceiving what they put out on Friday. It was so deceiving. If you just would have read that, you'd be like, oh, this is great. All these more opportunities for young people, when in the reality. That's the ironic thing to me about this. A lot of these politicians, they're fighting against the corporate suits to give experiences to young people. That's what they tell us. When in reality, I think they're going to end up taking away from a lot more young people than they are actually being additive. But then the other side of that argument, and I can argue both, is that football has funded this whole thing for 50 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's about time those guys get paid what they're worth. You could make that argument too. It's a very complex issue. I hate this clearinghouse thing. Have you read into this clearinghouse that they're going to run NIL through?
How is that going to work?
I think this is one of the stupidest ideas I've ever heard in my entire life.
So give us a Reader's Digest version of what the clearinghouse actually is.
The idea is a good one. Like I like how this starts because they want to make sure that some car dealership isn't paying a quarterback $10 million to show up and do 5 minutes of work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's great. Like, I love this. From what I understand is they want to have like a third-party arbitrator type situation, which I'm guessing this becomes like what compliance people are right now for the NCAA, but I don't know. I'm just guessing. That any NIL deal that again, these are all in-house now, right? So they're not running through like Bloom and Brad and those types of guys. Any NIL deal. So let's say Fareway wants to pay an Iowa football player $1,000 to come and do a TV ad. It's got to be approved by this third-party clearinghouse before they can do it. And then it has to be reviewed by like these. But my whole deal is like, man, like what we're doing here in this state is just vastly different than, like, again, USC is the perfect example. Like it's like trying to compare what Iowa's doing to Phil Knight in Oregon. Like, it's apples and oranges here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think two things will come from this. One, this is going to be completely overwhelming, and then we're just going to be right back into where we were with the NCAA and compliance. This is an impossible task for these people to run through. But two, the one good thing that has come from this last 3 years is these players being out in the community and like making real differences. And those days are done. Because I can promise you, when this thing is run by these bigger, more national corporate entities, they're not going to be like, hey, let's get this player $1,000 to go to this American Heart Association deal to take pictures with little kids who are dying. Like, they're not going to do that anymore because it's not local anymore. And I think there'll be local people, like and like good people who we like and trust and all that, but they're going to have, they're going to be answering to a publicly traded company, not like Bloom has to answer to his board of 5 people who he knows and gets to see every day, right? Like, I think any of the positive that we've had from this is going to go away. And maybe it should. Like, maybe selling beer and these companies giving $1 for, maybe that's not a good way to do it either. And I'm not saying it is. But, like, Chris, like, the value of $1,000 in Los Angeles could not be more different than the value of $1,000 in Ames, Iowa. And we're going to judge all these things on the same playing field. What are we doing?
Yeah. And I also, like you mentioned in there that this isn't going to be going through Bloom, it's going through the athletic department. I just don't see a way where the outside collectives don't remain. Like maybe Bloom goes inside the athletic department, but I think something else is going to pop up outside.
So
because the $22 million is not going to be enough.
Well, but what they're saying is this stupid clearinghouse is not only to police that, but also the collectives. So like if Bloom still ran We Will and he got a $10,000 deal for Rocco Becht with Fareway, then that would have to go through this clearinghouse and it would count against the $22 million as well, is what they're saying.
So the $22 million, it's not gonna work
unless these kids
you're gonna have an
out.
athletic department that's gonna have players that are combined to be worth way more than $22 million.
I've used Audie Crooks as an example. Like if I were her and her people, I would strongly look at this new model and ask myself if I should opt out and just get my own NIL deals.
Yeah, because let's just say, and these aren't the numbers. Audie Crooks is worth $10 million. Rocco Becht is worth $15 million. Right? There's two players and then nobody else gets paid. Like I know those numbers are outrageous. I'm just saying you got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players, student athletes in this pot. There are going to be you could probably at a school like, I don't know, Texas, Ohio State, you could pick 10 players that might be able to equal $22 million. So then what? So they don't get paid what they're worth because it has to be spread around the
Correct.
whole thing? It doesn't make any sense. So I think
these
outside
people,
collectives are going to have to remain. And they're
these
not going
people-
to have to answer to this $22 million.
This is what got the NCAA into problems in the first place because it refused to rescind any control over these players. Had they just given more 20 years ago, they'd be in a much better spot right now.
Yeah.
You know, and now
we
they're
totally
just,
screwed that up. They
now
totally
there's like
screwed it up.
Now there's not just a gun to their head. They're literally holding on to a ticking grenade.
And we're trying to play catch up, and reading the quotes from these athletic directors, these conference commissioners from media days. I mean, they're like scared to death. They don't know what to do.
And these are
They're
smart people. They're not idiots. You know.
Well, if we do it this way, then I'm worried we're going to get sued.
Well,
and this is all coming, it sounds like, by next football season.
It is.
This revenue
share.
So
these schools are these football and men's basketball programs. I'm sure women's basketball too is feeling it. They're already being asked by recruits, "What are we going to get paid?" And they don't know what to say because this is so late. You know.
Billy Napier, the head coach at Florida, who might not be there next year, he was asked about revenue sharing, and he says that at Florida, he thinks that if it's $20 million allotted in revenue sharing, that football should get and will get 70 to 75% of that revenue, so $12.5 to $15 million. But
I think he's right.
It's going to be so, like, let's say Creighton.
No, I know. What?
It's apples and oranges there, too, because Creighton
buy
doesn't have
stock in
football.
Big East basketball right now.
Yeah,
I hope
they
you
can
bought your
use
stock already.
All of it on basketball.
What is, like, UConn going to do? Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
Like, why would you even give your football team anything? Just punt and say we suck.
Yeah.
Give it all to men's and women's basketball.
It's just...
Like,
it's
you know
sad
who
that
I'd
we're
worry
here.
about? Like, I worry about both of our women's programs. Like, Iowa's this, like, ascending program. You had this transcendent star. Finley's had Iowa State rolling. You have great attendance. What if they can't put as many resources into women's basketball as people are doing throughout the country? We care about that here. Yeah. I'll tell you what, they're sold-out crowds. I'll tell you our number.
I think Iowa's given more money to women's basketball in the collective than men's basketball.
Yeah, and will that keep up under the school? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to go up here before I go to the Ozarks, take my tee shot from Game Day Men's Health. get me right back to where I need to be.
Have you cut down on your pre-workout intake since
I have, yeah. My blood pressure was raging on Friday when we were in there. It was just absolutely. Stephanie, the nurse there, she goes, "Are you dying?" And I said, "No, just really stressed out, and I got all this P and T running through my veins." No, it's completely safe. I really have just been super duper stressed. I did check my blood pressure over the weekend. I'm back to normal.
Are
Daddy's
these T shots affecting your height?
See, what is going on with this height thing? You guys are completely playing into this. I haven't shrunk. That is completely a fabricated photo right there.
What do you mean? That's the picture that
that
I
is
think
not
one of the
picture.
Kaburski brothers took that picture of us at the Cyclone, the George Niang event. Why do you look so small next to me? Am I getting bigger?
That is not a real picture. You photoshopped that, you dumbass.
What are you talking about? Oh,
there you go. That's the real one.
This is after tee shot, before tee shot.
Ah. But people, yeah, that really caused a stir, Williams. People were very concerned about you looking so small. What do you
Is it because I'm standing like a little bit behind you and, you know, one of them dadgum Kaburski brothers shot it downward? I don't know. But everybody was calling me like say I'm shrinking over the weekend. I'm not. I'm actually, I promise you. Well, I might be. I mean, I've lost some weight, but.
What do you weigh?
I'm about
and how
200.
tall are you? You're 200? And how tall are you?
5'10". 5'11"-ish. 5'10"-ish. Probably 5'10", 10 and a half-ish. I don't know. I don't weigh myself every day, but maybe Hassel is becoming a giant, says Adam.
Keith did keep saying, because I hadn't seen Keith in years. Keith Murphy. He took us out to lunch at a Mexican restaurant. And
no, he
kept
didn't
saying,
take us out to lunch.
Look,
I paid for it.
You look taller than I remember. Oh yeah, that's
yeah, you
right.
do look
paid
taller.
Don't
give Keith credit. Have you ever seen Keith pick up a tab anywhere?
What was the deal? That water was what's the worst water I've ever had in my life. Now, we weren't in Ames.
No.
But we went to some Mexican restaurant in Des Moines. We won't name. Food was good. But that was the worst water I've ever had in my life.
The diarrhea afterwards hurt too.
I had to order a Sprite because I couldn't drink the water.
No, it was good to get you into our friends at Game Day Men's Health. Nice people, right? Like these are people
Great
who
people.
really can help men.
Great
who
people.
really help men get healthier. Game Day Men's Health with locations in Ankeny, West Des Moines, and North Liberty. And I want to thank them Kaburski brothers too. They're coming over this week. The Kaburski boys are going to start on my lawn this week. Kaburski brothers lawn
they were
care.
looking forward to it. I mean, they were a little worried about your wife, but looking forward to taking care of that lawn of yours.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We'll tell you all about it as they get going, but they really opening up with some landscaping appointments. They're super busy with those early in the year, but this actually, you're coming up on a good time to do that stuff, get things in the ground before all the September rains and good stuff like that. So the Kaburski Brothers Lawn Care, shout out to them, big sponsor of the show. Finally, our friends at Iowa Event Center, that Luke Bryan coming up, baby. I can see Van Winks in his tight, skinny jeans, just shaking his ass all over the stage, singing
Country girl, shake it
shake
for
it
me.
for me, girl. Shake it for me, girl.
No, I'll
There
be
you
at
go,
the
Matty.
Barry Manilow concert. That's who that's
Dude, I want to see Manilow. I want to see Manilow. Mandy is one of the all-time great songs. Am I wrong?
How does it go? Oh, man.
Oh, Mandy.
That's the only part of it I know.
Yeah, that's me too. I like Manilow. He's pretty old now, but this is probably your last time to see him.
The last Des Moines concert.
Oh, Manilow has said that? This is the last time I'm coming to Des Moines?
Yep.
So this is a funny story. Come back from the races on Friday night. Maddie, you'll love this because you know my little girl, Elise. Hassel, you're getting to know her pretty well. And
yeah, she let me sleep in her bed. Not with her, but where did she sleep? My wife was like, where did she
on
go?
top of me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big bed for a 4-year-old that she's got.
Well, that's because she's got major sleeping problems, and I've slept in that bed a lot with her over the years. I got her a bigger bed specifically because I was in it so much early in her life.
Well, that worked out great for me.
Get back from the races Friday night, and Elise, I mean, it's like midnight, and she's still up, and she was crying. And what is wrong, sweetheart? Like, what is wrong? Well, her sister, Cameron is real into the country music. It's like her passion. She loves country music. She knows everything about Lainey Wilson. Like, she just loves it. She studies it. And she read somewhere on the internet that, like, Alan Jackson has some sort of an illness, the country singer,
Yeah.
And Elise was crying because she thought Alan Jackson, her favorite singer, is going to die.
Jeez. Is he okay?
I think.
Now, what does Alan Jackson sing?
Well, way down yonder on a Chattahoochee.
Oh, I thought it
It's
was
hotter than a hoochie coochie.
Now, what is that? That's a song about a woman's vagina?
No, it's about a river, the Chattahoochee River.
Oh. What's he saying?
But it
coochie
is
for?
the hoochie. It gets hotter than a hoochie coochie, though. It does sound like a vagina.
And that's your daughter's favorite song?
Her favorite Alan Jackson song is "Where I Come From."
It's
cornbread and chicken.
Cornbread and chicken.
Wait, are we sure that that's not a Gary Allen song?
Songs
She was
about
seriously,
rain.
I'm not kidding. My kid was crying at midnight on Friday because Alan Jackson is apparently sick.
I thought you were going to say she was crying because I left.
That too. She liked you.
She didn't say a
The
word.
Hassel it's so funny. He doesn't know. Like, anytime you see Elise, Hassel just walk out of the room and he goes, "Hi." Like, she's a normal human. You can just say hello to her. Elise, how are you? She's like, why was he talking to me like that?
It's like I have a handicap when I get around kids. I don't know how to act.
It did make her smile. Like, you disarmed her emotionally very quickly, so that was good.
Oh, hi.
You go into your Bloom voice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Can I sleep in your bed?
I still haven't seen that Amish glider.
I was
so
sitting in it
close.
the other day. I was letting the Bloom's dogs out while they were at the We Will deal, and I sat in the glider and watched his dogs shit in the backyard. It was great. Couple other quick things I want to get to. Man, do you see your boy Brock Purdy? Did you see this out at camp? Your boy Brock Purdy basically saying, here's a real quote: "I want to be dominant, not just win games and be like, yeah. I want to dominate with consistent decisions and feel like we are the top dogs every day. There were moments last year in games where I don't know what the situation was, but we put up and it's like, all right, be smart with the ball, or let's make sure we don't mess it up. I want to break through that and get to this point of just being dominant for 4 quarters, man. That's my mindset." Matt Van Winkle, does that make you erect?
It's a freaking winner's mentality right there. I'll tell you what. I love that. I love it. You got close to the Super Bowl the last 2 years ago. Nearly got his arm ripped off, and you're 1 play away from winning the Super Bowl. He wants to get back, man. I love it. Love that mentality. Did you see also ESPN's Bill Barnwell is reporting that Brock Purdy could be in line for a nice 5-year extension worth $325 million.
That is
$65 million per season. That would make him the highest paid quarterback in the league.
The quarterback,
but he's still not a top 5 quarterback.
Well, see, so this is my argument against that, Van Winks. Look what they just paid Tua. Like,
yeah,
it's all about
it's just funny money at this
quarterbacks.
point.
If you have a starting quarterback who you want to keep for the next few years, you have to pay him at that point more money than any other quarterback. For some reason, that's just how it goes.
It's crazy.
And there are some that will restructure, like a Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
But like if you're up, boom, you're going to the top. And it resets the market again.
The 49ers are going to be in an interesting predicament in the offseason because they're going to be above the salary cap by quite a ways, and they have to pay Purdy. So It's going to be. I mean, they got Ayuk sitting right now, and he's at training camp, but he's not signed his new contract.
Probably one of the reasons that that they haven't been able to offer him something that he wants is because they know what they're going to have to pay Purdy.
Yeah, they kind of the talk right now in the Bay Area is that they might give him some sort of like elevated 1-year deal, just to like get him through the year and show us what you got, kind of a thing. But I don't know if he'll want to do that. But
who with Brock?
Yeah, and then
man, I feel like
Trent Williams is holding out now too because he wants a pay raise. So
in fairness to Brock, I felt like last year was that for him. Like I feel like he's proven to be a good quarterback. I don't think he's proven to be a great one. But I think he's proven to be a good quarterback.
That's what he's saying he wants to be.
Yeah.
I love the talk.
Yeah, he took that step and now but man, this is where you get to real football hell, right? Where you start once you get that quarterback locked in at that number, then the rest of the roster is just so much more difficult to put together. And I would question if the Eagles will ever be what they were now that they're paying Hurts. Like this is why I wanted the Vikings just to get rid of Cousins. It wasn't his fault that they didn't win a lot. I mean, he was pretty good there the last few years, but it was just like you can't pay anyone else once you do that, right? Mm-hmm. There's a reason why these quarterbacks, when you can get them in their rookie contracts, usually are. But what do you do, right? Like it's Shanahan, it's his system. He loves Purdy. Purdy's like the leader of the team. There's a reason he was a captain.
And they also have like the highest paid running back in McCaffrey. George Kittle's a top 3 tight end. Debo's a top 10 wide receiver. Like
if you're going to sign Brock,
offensive lineman.
If you're going to sign Brock, you're going to have to let go of 2-3 of those guys and start over with rookies. It's just the reality. That's what makes the NFL great. Isn't this what makes the NFL great compared to this other conversation we've been having? Like,
yeah, salary cap parity.
You always have a chance. You always have a chance. I don't know.
Unless the Chiefs, they could be the first team ever to go back to back to back, but they're an outlier with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best skilled quarterback of all time, in my opinion. Just as far as like God-given talent and what he can do with the football. Like, there's really no comparison, right? I mean, Brady was a pre-snap guy. Like he wasn't just like physical.
There will be people that will argue that Dan Marino is still the most talented quarterback arm-wise, but
that's kind of the evolution of an athlete too. It's like quarterbacks just back then were asked to do so many different. Like now we're asked to do so many. Marino wouldn't be that in today's game, in my opinion. He'd be really good, but like Mahomes can run. He can do everything.
We're getting there. We're getting there, Williams. Our next show is the start of August 1. And that is game month. We've got game 1 of the college football season is a month away. It's a month.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready, man. I'm going to go on this little shindig to the Ozarks and then
get your mind right.
Get your mind right. And we'll be back and ready to go. Thank you, Hassel. We appreciate your time. He is Matty Van Winkle, producing the program as always. We got him all hot and bothered heading into his Monday with this Brock Purdy talk.
99 days until the presidential election. So be on your best behavior, Van Woke.
Countdown. The final countdown will be...
By the way, do you see these legs on Brock Purdy?
Look at those tree trunks, man.
You're zooming right into his crotch.
It's all right. It's Purdy, man.
It's a good thing he's got that towel to cover it up.
Look at that. Man, that's a good-looking human right there. He's Brock Purdy. Appreciate him showing us his thighs on today's show. We'll be back on Thursday. Have a great work week, everyone.